A lot of the Etch video tutorials that are out there jump straight into an activity, and while that's really great, I thought it would be good to do a bit of an interface tour so that when you first get hold of an Etch installation and you install it, you might feel a little bit. It's intimidating enough because it's a bit new, especially if you're coming from page builders, which are a little bit more obvious in how to take the next step forward. But if you're met with a blank page and then all of these small icons and everything, it can be a bit difficult to know where to start. I think learning by doing is a great thing to do, and there are a lot of videos out there that help you to start doing that. But in this video, we're just going to have a little tour of the interface, what is where, just so you can get your bearings a little bit. So grab a cup of tea and a few cheeky biscuits and, just watch and absorb. And it's going to help you with your first play around in Etch. And of course, if you don't really know much about Etch, this is what I felt was lacking when I was first told to have a little look at it. I didn't feel that while there were videos that showed you how to start doing a few things, I think what I was missing at that point was something just a bit more of a tour so that I could understand how it works. So that's what we're going to do in this video. Okay, so one of the best things about Etch as it's developing is that once you're in Etch, you seldom need to go outside of it. So the first thing I'm going to show you, even though you don't really need to do it, is how to go back to the editor. So this is the point where I've just launched Etch, and this was on my other video about how to install Etch. But if you wanted to go back to the WordPress kind of space, which doesn't look very nice in comparison, that's how you would do it. And then of course you would want to edit with Etch to get back in, or just of course launch Etch. So to get back to the page that we were just in, which was the home page, edit screen, I would click this one, or I could actually just launch Etch from the top there, and it's opened up the home page again. So that's what that does, but again, you don't really often need to do that. So what we're going to do now is just have a quick look at all of this section, what all of that does for you, and then we'll look at the different elements, and then you'll start to understand how everything's fitting together. Okay, so first of all, up here we've got the content hub. So click on this, and you're going to see a list of the posts and the pages. Now this is really fantastic. This is something that you don't get in any other builders. I do think that Breakdance has started to bring this together in their top bar a little bit, so you can start to create different items and then edit straight away. But Etch has really done something great here, where whether you've got custom post types or even field groups, it's all together in this nice little organized space. So I really, really rate this. And of course, from here, you can actually create new pages. So I could type in here the About page. And then we've got the slug already formed, and we can create the page and go into the builder and start working. So that's really, really fantastic. We could, of course, delete as well. Custom post types, if you don't really understand what custom post types are, it's really how you should organize all of the different content on your site, or manage the content on your site. So WordPress is a CMS, is a content management system, and I've done a number of videos on how important custom post types are and how you should separate all the different types of information into their own custom post types so that you can template them effectively. So for example, you should have, your home page might be a single standalone page, contact page might be as well, but all of your legal pages should be a post type. All of your reviews should be a post type. Even your FAQ should be a post type. Service pages should be a different post type of their own. And you can actually create those here. You would usually do that with ACF. Now, for the time being, I would still use ACF at this point, just because custom fields are still being developed in Etch. But again, this is just where you would find all of that. And this does actually work. You can create, say, a reviews post type. So reviews, review. Then you'd have the slug, whether or not you want it to be hierarchical like pages or more like blog posts. And I never really click this at all. And then public and has archive, you'd always want that selected, and then you create the post type. So you would do that here, and you've got that post type created. Custom field groups, I'll cover this in another video because this is developing, but yeah, this is where you'd manage all of the content and content types, which is important to think about. Then we have, below that, we have a link to the media library. My feeling is that they'll probably change this up a little bit and maybe even make it more organized. So a bit like Filebird or something like that. But that's how you would access the media straight from within Etch. Again, it's that fact that you can stay within the Etch system and go where you need to go. Below that, we've got templates. And so this is important to understand, really, because templates, you have a default template that would always be the fallback for any type of page or post type. As you can see here, I've got one that's now created for the CPT. And this is the index page. And so this is the default template that will display any content or content type on your website. The first thing you want to do really when you're building an Etch website, or any website, but yeah, Etch website, is create the index template. And this is where you would put the header and the footer. So a lot of page builders, they would talk about creating a header template or a header or a footer template. And something that Etch is really pushing is pro web design fundamentals. And in that, we realize that headers are not templates, they are components. I'm going to do another video on components, but they are actually components within a template. So the first thing you want to do is create your index template. This is where you would put your header and your footer. I'll cover that in the next video, actually. So templates also are things that you might want to create for different post types as well. So you might have service pages that are set out in a very rigid type of template. It's more likely that reviews would have a set template because they've got very fixed elements. And so you would create those here. There are some other different templates as well, so such as archive templates and 404, things like that. Although in my view, I suppose 404 is just a standalone page, but I suppose that's why it's miscellaneous. Still, that's where you're going to find your templating, is just right up here in the top left. Then we have the style manager, and this might make sense in a few other videos that we'll start working on. But as you add elements in Etch, you're going to, and we will do so in a minute so you can see that happen, you're going to create selectors in order to style them. And this is where you'll find that list, and it will be forever added to. So I've never had to actually filter, but looks like you can filter them by all of these different aspects, or you can actually search. So if you have something like a testimonial selector, you can find it more quickly in there. So really easy to do. Then you have variables. Now, variables are design tokens. You might have heard them be called. So variables are design tokens. It's how you tokenize everything. For those coming from page builders, and if you're learning about this, this is more about something like, you'll understand this in the context of global colors or global typography. All of those global style decisions that you would set in Elementor or Breakdance global settings, and then they carry out to the rest of the site. So for example, you might do something like a primary or secondary or an accent global color, and then you would always select that from the color palette. That's the same principle as a variable. So I'll quickly do an example here. You might have something like, let's just do that, primary color, and then you would set that to, I'll just type some in at the moment, green, and then you might have a secondary color, and you might have that to be yellow, and then we would have accent, and yeah, let's do traffic light. Looks like we're doing traffic lights, kind of. So these are now set as variables with this name. and it's this that you would apply to any element styling. Instead of writing green or yellow or red as a color, you're going to use this this global color. So that's the idea of variables. Again, if you're coming from the page builder world, think of this as sort of like your global settings, global typography, padding, and all that kind of thing. Then we've got style sheets. This is your global style sheets. Working in Etch, and this is something to get used to, you're often creating a selector on an element and then styling that selector with variables. But there will be very few occasions when you need to put stuff in a global style sheet, and it might be because there's some sort of like change state, like with a parallax or something, and you need to put that in a global style sheet. You can add different style sheets if you need or want to, just to stay organized. But yeah, it's been years since I've had to be arranging CSS style sheets and things, and that whole system has changed somewhat, to be honest. So it's good, you can have different style sheets for different aspects of the site, so you can stay organized and you don't end up with one really long sheet that you have to sort of wade through to find one of your selectors. But that's where you're going to find all of this. This is how you style all of the different elements. You apply selectors, you style them with variables that you set here, and then for anything that's kind of outside of the elements to some degree, you're going to put that in a global style sheet, and you find that just up here. And lastly on this section is the loop manager. Now, you would have started to use loops a little bit in page builders with stuff like you're making you using a loop builder maybe to show off your blog posts or maybe reviews and things like that. In Etch, we're using them for everything, like the navigation, for example. So this is a navigation loop, and it's using JSON. So JSON might be you might only have really seen that in page builders with stuff like templates and things. That's the only time you might have really encountered it. But there are different types of loops as well. These loop queries are something you may have played around with in Elementor or Breakdance. Most of the time, though, it's been used in a visual interface, so you haven't really had to type out all of these different elements. But it's all quite simple. It's 80-20 rule, really. This is what you use most of the time. So yeah, there are different types of loops, and we'll cover those in a different video. But yeah, this is where you'll actually find and organize all of your different loops. So that's the top left there, and as you can see, this is all about organization and management of the major elements there. If you're making any changes, obviously you want to hit the big save button. Just hit an update for OBS, don't want that, which is down at the bottom. I'm not sure you can actually see that. For some reason you can't. Oh, there we are. There we are. Seems my interface keeps changing size. So hopefully you've been able to see everything that I've yapped about. Cool. Okay. Oh, I see what that is. It's set a bit differently. Okay. Don't know how I've done that. Right. I'll fix that back up. I'm doing this all as one take. So yeah, I'm sticking with that. Sorry, guys. Cool. Right. All looking good again. Right. So hit save. Happy days. Okay, so to go back to the editor, we were looking at the home page just now. You're just going to click on this one, and we're back into the editor interface. Right, so let's have a look at. I'm just going to hit this one, bit premature, just so I can show you the hide and show panels. So when you have an element selected, you are shown all the different editing panels, and you can decide what's on show here. So most of the time, you're not going to need JavaScript. Most of the time, we're dealing with HTML and CSS, so that makes a lot of sense. The style inputs, I've not really used that ever, to be honest. But this is once you've added a selector, you'll be able to start using a style interface very similar to other page builders, to be honest, which really helps you start using Etch in a more intuitive way if you're coming from a page builder. I do encourage you to just get with the program and start using more of the interactive code-based interfaces just to start building up that familiarity, especially as now there's a mini GUI which comes into the CSS interface just here. But you can turn all of these on and off as you wish. Structure panel, obviously, that's up here. Then we have element settings and component editor. Actually, oh yeah, that I'm assuming that is whether you turn that on or off. You would usually need to right click on that anyway, so but you would do that down here, and you can hide all of it if you just want to take a peek at your site. Cool. So victory sip. And then obviously we've seen back to editor, but you rarely need to do that. Right, so we've covered the top left, again, mainly organization. Here we're handling our panels and things like that, but you can drag and drop all of these as well. I like it as it is. Although I don't feel the need for this one, but I will show you that later on, if I remember. Now, I'm just going to bin that so that we can have a look at a cleaner interface here. So, obviously, if you're coming from the page builder world, and this is what this is what I wanted to do really, because I've come from the page builder world. Previous to that, I was more code based and making my own templates in Joomla. But the last time I coded something like a CSS grid and looped through it, that was within WordPress, was like 3.5 years ago. And most agency work and a lot of freelance work ends up just being in page builders. And so if you're trying to use Etch, you know, there's a bit of a transition there, and that's what I just wanted to sort of help out with these videos. So yeah, referring to page builders, what you get in a page builder interface really is the same. You get a bunch of building blocks here, but these are more like the fundamentals. So you get a section, you get a container, you get a flex div, more for convenience, but then you get a basic div, and then you get heading, text. Let's just whack all these in there actually. So we've got a section and a container. Then you might have an additional div. You're going to put a heading in there, text, anchor link, image. You've got an iframe should you need it, an SVG, and then we get onto loops or condition statements, but I'll show you those in a different video. But these are the fundamental building blocks that you have. What a page builder does is usually up on the left side, it gives you a bunch of elements that have already been created using these basic building blocks. And so what the real challenge with Etch is to create these yourselves and understand how to make something completely from scratch, completely custom, using these basic building blocks. A lot of it actually is quite the same. We have a structure panel and we can pull all of the different elements around. We can rename them so that we're organized, and we can duplicate or delete. It's all really quite fantastic. But what we have to do is really understand what these basic elements are and then how we can use them. So first of all, let's just clock again that we've got the section, which automatically includes a container with a pre-made content width. That is the fundamental for every section on your site. Then we have a convenient flex div, and just these few elements here are more of the visual ones. Loops and conditions come later on. Let's just delete all of these, and then we'll look at how to actually style the elements. So I'll just delete all of them, and then let's do a heading. I'm going to swoop that on in there. So what we have right now are three elements: the section, the container, and then within that we have the heading. And the question is then, how do we style those? Because page builders would usually have a bunch of styling gizmos. Now, I do realize actually that I did say I would show you the style inputs panel. But what you notice it says here is add a selector to get started. And this is where we're learning improved web design from the get-go, because page builders will have you start to edit an element such as this heading straight onto the element. Now to show you what that's like, if I add an H2, this is a heading. Why doesn't it come? Yeah. Okay. So what page builders tend to do is show you how to. They make it so that you can just jump onto a color palette and start changing the color. So that should turn red. Yay. And what we're doing there is we're actually literally editing the element. Okay, that's what page builders tend to do. But what we need to understand is that if I then have another heading, this is another heading, heading, there we are, it's catching up. I now then have to actually change the style of that element manually. So if suddenly we want to change the color of our headings on all of the on the entire website that we've built, this is when in a page builder you end up with a copy paste type of scenario. Often it's the case of you can copy styles and then paste styles, but you're doing that on different elements over the entire site. That is the equivalent of doing this 100 times on every different heading. We don't want to do that. That's not the way to operate in true web design. Instead, what we might want to do is make a selector or a class such as heading color. I'll just put heading color. H color. Yeah, because I'll forget it in a minute otherwise. And then we would put a style. So we would want it to be, let's make it the same. So now we've removed the elements. We've actually removed the we've removed the styling on the element, and instead what we want to do is give this an actual selector allocation. So this one now has the class of H color, which is great. That's fine. And so does this one. So the thing that we can now do, instead of if we make a change, we have to go around to each one of them and do it, just by this one setup, what we can do is now just go straight to the class or the selector, and we can make the change there, and it's going to change all of the headings. Again, it's that global, or it's that globalized type of control, one source of truth. And that is what you have to do with Etch. That's what it's asking us to do, to assign a selector. And we're going to start then styling the selector, not the element. So the reason why this is good here, so let's call this hero. And then we've got a container, we've got a heading. Let's have a text element, and then we're also going to have a call to action link. So that works well for that. Okay, cool. So we've got all of these different elements. So hero, container, heading, text. What did I do there? Somehow I put that in. Cool. All of the different elements. That's what we'd need. And now I've called this hero, and what we're going to do is apply BEM classes. Let's go away. BEM classes to all of the different elements. So we want to keep this organized in our selectors. If I click this and now show you all of the different elements, you see that we've got hero, then we've got hero container. So this is the container that has something to do with that hero. Then we've got hero heading, hero text, and then hero anchor, or button you might want to call it, or style it as such. So now we've got organized selectors, and I'm just going to hit save on that and quickly show you the style panel, style manager, and you see that all of these are already appearing, which is really fantastic. Right, let's just go back. But now what we can do is style all of these different elements. So this is the style panel. I can't remember what it's called, style inputs panel. And if you're familiar with page builders, you're already going to figure out how you can use this. So yeah, what have we got here? Again, I've not really used it much. We've got padding. Don't know what that's looking for. Is it looking for a value there? Oh, look at that, cool. Yep, so 2EM, and it's applied the padding. You'd never want to apply margin anyway, but you would want to have a gap, but we'd want to place that onto this probably. Yep, cool, something like that. And you can see that it's actually adding that to the code. The CSS is exposed here, and we're actually learning how to do all of this. I can remove it from there, and we can actually apply it all automatically. Manually, which is really awesome. Okay. So again, what we're doing there is actually styling the selector. Again, just going to show you this. If we go to the style manager and we go to the selector, we can obviously change it up there. And we've got the mini GUI here as well. So again, not use this really. I suppose that's a background color. Yeah, that's variable white. So we're using a variable there, that's cool, but I want to make sure you can see this and save. So we can operate here in the selectors, go back, and you see that it's blue. Yep. Okay, so that's how we just start to use all of these different elements. We've got a style manager, we've got the HTML, which we can move around if we need to, or edit directly. Then we have the CSS, which is how we style the selectors that we've added to all of the different elements. If you want to edit a different selector, then you click on the different element and edit it directly. So we can do color white. Okay, cool. Now the thing is, you want to avoid actually putting anything in here that isn't a variable, so we need to start working on all of that, but we need to create variables to do that. But this is just to look around the interface, obviously, at this point. Although, what variables do we have? So let's get carried away a bit. Oh yeah, we've got all of these. So we've got primary, secondary, and accent. Yeah, let's have a little peek at that. So hero heading, I would like this to be var, open up the brackets, and then type the variable name. And you can see that that's gone green there. Type in a different variable name. And look at that, that's working really well. Now, I'm now a user of ACSS, which you can use to create to control all of your classes and variables. It's a really, really great plugin. I think I'll be using it on, well, I know I'll be using it on every site. But if you haven't got that, you need to create a nice range of variables that cover all of your sort of like brand choices and elements. So it might be about the sort of padding or spacing that you have. It's going to be the colors, typography, radius decisions. All of those design elements need to be established in variables, and you know where to put that in your style manager. So cool, right? That's how to do all of that. So essentially, create the elements, you organize them here, you name them, ensure that they've got selectors on them, and then you can start to style them either using this style input here or actually directly in the CSS panel. And now there's a mini GUI, which makes it all very similar to page builders anyway. The great thing is though that you've always got exposure to the code, so you can make all those quick changes that you need to make. Right, I don't really want to take up more of your time now. I feel like there's a good look at the interface, although we do need to cover this. It's really important to make sure that our HTML is semantically correct, and so we do need to understand that changing the tags out is really important when appropriate. So for example, we might have another heading, and I've just duplicated that heading to make another one, but then we would want to ensure that we've got correct hierarchy. So maybe this is an H3, and you would do that here. This is really appropriate as well for when you've got something like a button. So this anchor right now is a link, and something that's really hard in page builders is that, sorry, that blue is really annoying me. So let's just calm it down a little bit. EB. There we are. Oh God, right. I'm going to have to just do this now, aren't I? Heading, I would like that to be primary. Yeah, that's better. Okay, and save. Right. What was I going to do? God. Okay, lists was it I may be talking about? Yeah, I think I was talking about a list and HTML and semantics and things. So if we have something like a div here, and this is going to be a feature list. All right, so that might be features, and then we let's keep it simple. We'll just go with PPP. Now this would be the UL, and then this would be the list, and I can also select it in here. And then we've got a semantically correct list here. Now this is not something that was so easy to do in page builders. Another example of this, oh yeah, that's what I was talking about, links in page builders. So in breakdowns, even the text version of the button is actually a button, and buttons are not really meant to be used apart from say opening a pop-up or an actual function. It's an important accessibility feature. And so most of the time when it's like visit our about page, that should just be a text link, an anchor link. So if you are actually going to create a button, you might grab a div, as I've just attempted to do. Nope, I've done that wrong. So if I grab a div now, I don't know why it's going into the element there. Don't want it to. Right, that one's been problematic. There we are. Okay, so this is going to be my button, and then I might have an icon, although I don't have one of those at the moment, but I could, oh, we've got an SVG with Etch, that's great. And then text, so we might want click here. Now we're going to need to quickly bend this out. Oh, I've said allow. Okay, so we've got some selectors. We can quickly style this out a little bit. Not too much, because it's just meant to be a semantic HTML thing. And cool. Background, there we are. Okay, so all of that is in place, but this is a div, and what we actually want to do is change this to button, and then that is actually a button. We've created our own little button there. That is very different to having a link, which I think is just applied into there. So now we have an anchor link, and we have a button, and they're separate things, but semantically in HTML they are correct. So you can see that here. Nice little button, class button. Cool. Right, so I think those are all of the essentials. Obviously, you're going to use this and then get to grips with it all, figure out how you like it to be. Again, I've not really used that interface. This is how I tend to have it arranged, and I'm really quite happy with that. But yeah, that's a basic interface tour with Etch, and that's how to use all of these different elements, how to start making your first page. Obviously, we're going to go a bit more in depth in some other videos, but I hope you've enjoyed this little look around. All right, cheers. Thank you. Bye bye.